Story of it's the evil and the ugliness of people's hearts these days is everywhere.
This is Franky Rose's Think Tank. Here's your host, Franky Rose.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Think Tank. I'm trying to find out where that is coming from. Okay, I think I found it. Let's do this again. Okay, sorry guys. Now I gotta go searching again. So, I'm just trying to set up the Chad Doerman hearing. Give me a second here. I'll be with you in a second. There we go. Much better. I was a little concerned there. Under the weather, so I'm not at the top of my game. There we are. Oh, lordy. Good morning, Carrie and Dundee. I just heard about this about 25 minutes ago, and I wasn't able to find a setup link. I knew there had to be one out there, but I could not find it. So Chad Doerman has been, he's taken a guilty plea so he could avoid a trial for deleting his 3 young boys in one of the most vicious manners you could possibly imagine. Little guys, just little guys. One was deleted while Chad allegedly was trying to yank him out of the mom's arms. He got another little guy just outside. He was running away. And then the oldest girl, a teenager, she had grabbed another one of the brothers and was booting her out of there. Well, Chad made her put him down, and then he deleted him as well. The oldest daughter was able to run to the fire station and set out an alert as to what the hell was going on in that house. Cops showed up. They seen these little boys, and there was Chad sitting on the steps with a weapon beside him. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to do nothing. Well, they got him on the ground, and he's like, I'm not going to hurt you. It's just like, oh my God, man. So then he tried to get, he was going to go with the insanity plea. And I guess he's changed his mind on that as well. It came out since this happened that he had most likely been planning this. So you can't say that you're mentally ill when you've been planning something for a very long time. His neighbors were saying that he was constantly outside yelling at the wife and at those kids, and just a monster. He seems to, as like most, that he can't face what's coming his way like most. So yeah, we'll just take the wimpy way out so I don't have to explain my reasoning. Oh, hey, thanks, Maxie. Good morning. I know you're a busy gal. So they should be starting up here right away, 10:30. So yeah, in my personal opinion, he did this to harm his wife and possibly the oldest daughter that was not Chad's, but possibly the oldest child, just to let them live with it. He seemed like he was that messed up that he was doing this most likely out of spite. Let me see here. Hello, James. Good to see you. Bama Cat. Good to see you. What's in court for today? We've got Chad Doerman. They're putting out a news conference. He just hello, Mecky. He just pled guilty. I'm sure it was just to get rid of the other charges and the DP. I'm still setting up a little bit here. So yeah, he didn't do it because it was the right thing to do. He did it to save his hide. Bama Cat, I love that. I love that. Let's see here. Chad Doerman. So there is a playlist for Chad. So if you are not sure of how all of this began, check out the playlist and it'll give you a really good idea as to what his behaviors were. Never let them be forgotten. So it says that he pled guilty to deleting his 3 young sons in a case that captivated the tri-state. Well, I'm in Canada, so it captivated more than just the tri-state. Chad Doerman will be in prison for the rest of his life for the deaths of Clayton, Hunter, and Chase. Doerman pled guilty to 3 counts of M. By doing so, here we are. He avoided going to trial and possibly receiving the DP. Before the judge signed off on the plea agreement, powerful statements were read in court. The boy's mom and sister stood in the courtroom as an assistant prosecutor shared their words. Ever since what you've done, my life has been something I wouldn't wish upon any family, said Chad Doerman's stepdaughter in a statement read in court. Oh, Lordy. Oh, they've bumped this, guys. They've bumped it up. So we're now looking at about 25 minutes. So what I'll do then is we'll take a look at this. It doesn't look like it can make it any bigger for you. Oh, yes. Oh, sorry, guys.
On any family.
An assistant prosecutor reading the words of Chad.
Ever since what you've done, my life has been something I would never wish upon any family.
An assistant prosecutor reading the words of Chad Doerman's stepdaughter in open court.
Chad, when you go to bed every single night, I want you to know that when you took those 3 boys' lives away, you took mine and you took my mom's.
Then a statement from the 3 boys' mom.
I grieve the loss of Clayton, Hunter, and Chase every single day. And I grieve the life that they did not get to live. I miss their laughter, silliness, love, and joy for life. Mm-hmm. My love for Clayton, Hunter, and Chase will never go away. And I will never let them be forgotten.
That's always been our goal, is to help them be remembered for who they were, how they lived, not, what happened to them.
That's been the mission of Kristen Bennett since last June. She met all 3 boys through the New Richmond Youth Sports Association.
They sure knew how to have fun at the ball fields. They were very competitive. They were very skilled.
The boys' coaches started the hashtag play catch for the Doerman boys that went viral across social media.
Yeah, we still ask people to just go out and have fun, play catch, just, make bonds with people, just be a kid again. And, if you take video or a picture, if you're on social media, it's like Facebook, just to use hashtag play catch for the Doerman boys. Mom and the entire family really enjoys watching and seeing those.
People across the community are reacting to the plea agreement.
It's horrible.
It is horrible. This should never in a million years have happened. I mean, it's, in my personal opinion, after you've done the ultimate crime, how do you go and let's put it this way, there cannot be a chance of this man getting out because he has done the worst, which means he's capable of anything.
I can't imagine. It's tragic.
While continuing to support the family dealing with such tragedy.
Everybody just needs to get behind them, be supportive. This makes hopefully life a little easier for them, not having to go through trial, and that's what we're supportive of. And that's what everybody else needs to be supportive of. We may not have all the answers, and we don't need to know all the answers. And if she feels justice has been served today, then justice should serve.
Yeah. Oh, these beautiful babies. Good Lord. Rest in peace. Brutal.
Claremont County father who murdered his 3 little boys.
And today, Chad Doerman taking a plea deal that spares him the death penalty, but it will send him to prison for the rest of his life. WLWT News 5's Karen Johnson in the courtroom today, live for us right now in Batavia, explaining exactly what happened. Hi, Karen.
Yeah, hey, Mike, I know there is public outrage over his life being spared, but after the hearing, the prosecutor did hand me this. It is a letter, a statement from Doerman's ex-wife, Laura, and I want to read a portion of it. I am in full agreement with how the criminal case was resolved and the decision to end the criminal case with a plea. Having a guarantee that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars is what is best for my family. Oh, keep in mind, this plea deal now prevents Laura, it prevents her daughter, Alexis, from having to take the stand and relive what they experienced last year.
How do you plead?
Guilty. Guilty, a word Chad Doerman repeated 5 times today. Guilty of 3 counts of aggravated murder and 2 counts of felonious assault. His victims, his 3 young sons, 7-year-old Clayton, 4-year-old Hunter, and 3-year-old Chase, who Doerman gunned down and murdered at their own home. Doerman's ex-wife Laura and stepdaughter Alexis were also injured. Today, they stood feet away from Doerman as a prosecutor read their victim impact statements.
Chad, I trusted you with my life. And honestly, I looked up to you more than anyone. I saw you as my dad, not just a stepdad, because it hurts to know I will never get to experience another day with my 3 brothers or to make any memories anymore, because their innocent lives were taken away so quickly and horribly by their own father.
Laura's statement just as emotional as she wrote about trying to save her sons from her husband, who hunted down the children.
I was injured that day, fighting with every ounce of my body to just make it stop. I struggle every day, knowing I was not successful in doing so. And now I have to live with this and wonder what more I could have done to save them. I would do anything to push them on this.
I mean, are you kidding me? He's ruined this family. And I think it was intentional. Like I said, it was coming out that he'd been planning on doing this for a few months even before he actually did this act.
Swing. Cover them up one more time and hear their little ways of saying, I love you.
And Doerman did have an opportunity to speak, but he declined. His attorney said this never would have happened, but he was delusional and in psychosis when it happened. Coming up tonight at 7 o'clock, you're going to hear directly from the county prosecutor here in Claremont County, Mark DeCalve, more about his decision for this plea.
I'll see if I can
Reporting
find
live
that.
tonight in Batavia, Karen Johnson, WLWT News 5.
Okay.
Plead.
Guilty. A word Chad Doerman repeated 5
Might have to
times
crank it
today.
up.
Guilty of 3 counts of aggravated murder and 2 counts of felonious assault. His victims, his 3 young sons, 7-year-old Clayton, 4-year-old Hunter, and 3-year-old Chase, who Doerman gunned down and murdered at their own home. Doerman's ex-wife Laura and stepdaughter Alexis were also injured. Today, they stood feet away from Doerman as a prosecutor read their victim impact statements.
Chad, I trusted you with my life. And honestly, I looked up to you more than anyone. I saw you as my dad, not just a stepdad. Because it hurts to know I will never get to experience another day with my 3 brothers, or to make any memories.
Look at how little they
anymore,
were.
because their innocent lives were taken away so quickly and horribly by their own father.
Laura's statement just as emotional, as she wrote about trying to save her sons from her husband, who hunted down the children.
I was injured that day, fighting with every ounce of my body to just make it stop. I struggle every day, knowing I was not successful in doing so. And now I have to
I agree,
sit
Dandy.
and wonder what more I could have done to save them. I would do anything to push them on the swing, cover them up one more time, and hear their little ways of saying, I love you.
New surveillance video shows an SUV driving recklessly, swerving around one car almost.
No notice there. Okay. Prosecutor Mark Tekluv speaks after Chad Doerman pleads guilty.
And inquired about life without parole. We brought in Laura the next morning, Wednesday morning, and had a very lengthy discussion with her. I cannot state to any level of significance the inordinate trauma that she has experienced. We have met with her 6 or 8 times, and it is painful to her. It is difficult for my assistant prosecutors, difficult for hardened, seasoned law enforcement. And my position became fairly clear to me throughout this process, and most recently Wednesday when we discussed this plea offer with Laura, that doing anything further would be actually an act of cruelty towards her. We had prepared her to testify. She was ready to testify next week. Alexis was ready to testify. But the trauma that these two experienced that day and continue to experience on a daily basis. My job, as I saw it this week, was to relieve them of that additional agony. And that's why we are here today.
So it's those things considered, because you were adamant early on that you were going to seek the death penalty in this case.
That's right. That's right.
People are not going to understand that a man who killed his 3 sons is not going to face the death penalty. The public is going to have a hard time understanding that.
And this is the thing. The public is having a hard time with that. Fair enough.
Well, I'm happy to answer all these questions. Any question like this. Initially, and we indicted him with aggravating circumstances for the death penalty. And he will die in prison. Will he die sooner than he would die otherwise? The last 3 individuals in Claremont County who have received a death sentence. Jerry Lawson around 1988. He died in 2015 after 27 years in prison. Michael Webb, who committed an arson back in '89, killed his 3-year-old son. He died in prison in 2022 after 31 years on death row. So these things aren't a certainty as to when execution may occur. One thing I know is a certainty is that Chad Doerman will die in prison.
Yes, he will.
Do you believe that he suffers from any type of mental illness? You talk about prior calculation and design, the discussion about him wanting to kill the boys or thinking about it since October, the 8 months prior, but then there are 3 experts who evaluated him. One, I guess, was one of your experts as well.
Let me defer until Monday when we have the press conference, because we're going to have that all
Law
laid
and
out for
crime,
you.
she is.
All right.
There is a certain amount of satisfaction that the public would get from a trial to see this play out. That's not going to happen.
I'm not sure what the public satisfaction would be in watching one of the worst things I've ever seen. Again, as we were preparing this case initially for the trial that you all know was moved from July to the serious mental illness hearing that was scheduled for August 5th. These are grown, strong adults. These are dispatchers. These are firefighters. These are police officers who all cry. It is, again, agony is the best phrase I can come up with, the best word I can use. And the public is entitled to see what happened here, and they're going to see it. And you're going to hear Laura's 911 call. You'll hear nothing more chilling in your entire life than she's fighting to save her children.
Now, you talk about how grueling this was on everybody. Did you have anyone at any point in this have to step away from working on this case because of how gruesome this was?
No, we did not. We are dedicated professionals. And as you can see, Laura Barron-Allen, Katie Terpstra, Clay Tharp, and my entire staff, Stephanie Ross, they worked hand in hand with us, with the entire staff.
Maybe we'll find out today when this conference starts up what the answers that everybody wants. How the hell did this happen? And now he's just going to sit there?
Staff,
I don't know.
with the Doerman family,
I don't know.
to do the best we could to make this as easy a process on them as they can, as we could make it, and at the same time be overly prepared and ready to win this case trial.
How hard was it for you to accept this plea deal?
It was not hard. It was the right decision to do justice for these little boys, for Clayton, for Hunter, and for Chase. And part of that justice is by giving their mom and their sister some relief. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Oh, Lori.
Oh, here. I'm going to hand these out. We're gonna put these on a press release, but this is a statement from the Doerman family. You're welcome. We can all pass them
What
out.
time is the press conference?
1 p.m.
I'm looking for documents.
Monday the 5th.
Where did you say it was?
The County Administration Building, 101 East Main Street, 3rd floor. I don't get to keep these souvenirs.
Thanks. Thank you.
One of those sheets. Hey, David.
Okay. I'm looking for. I just brought up my Chad's.
As to count 1, aggravated murder in violation of 29030.
Okay, let's Crime Fix. We'll watch a little bit of this hearing here. We've got about 10 minutes. Maybe what I'll do is I'm going to bump it up a little bit, though. And if it starts where we can't keep up, I'll put it back to normal speed.
1A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Count 2, aggravated murder in violation of 29030-1A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Chad Doerman, the man who hunted down his 3 young sons on a summer day and shot them to death, pleads guilty.
He will die in prison.
The nightmare of attending court proceedings for the boy's family is over. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Chad Doerman will spend the rest of his life in prison. He has now admitted, after nearly 14 months, that he came home from work early on June 15th of last year and shot his 3 little boys. Clayton was just 7 years old, Hunter was 4, and Chase was 3. Clayton and Hunter played baseball in Claremont County, Ohio, east of Cincinnati. The boys' obituaries said that Chase...
There is absolutely zero that any kind of explanation would ever be sufficient.
left one day, wanted to play baseball just like his big brothers. Most little boys worship their fathers, and the Doerman boys were probably no different. But on that sunny summer day last summer, Chad Doerman committed the ultimate act of betrayal. He came home early from work, grabbed a Bible, and walked around the house mumbling, "Chad knows what's right." He was scaring his then wife as he tried to get into the gun safe in their bedroom. Doerman, according to court records, told her he was kidding. She was worried, so she and one of the boys laid down in bed with him. And then Doerman started shooting. Doerman's wife tried to save her boys, as did her older daughter, Doerman's stepdaughter. Doerman's now ex-wife grabbed the barrel of the gun, and he shot her through the thumb. She tried to get one of her boys to run, but the boy could not get away fast enough. Clayton, Chase, and Hunter's mom and sister could not stop the slaughter.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department. Sit down. It's my stepdaughter. Put him in the cage.
Doerman was taken away by sheriff's deputies.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket? Shut up, dude. You had the right to remain silent.
There was little question.
Oh, wow. I remember when this happened. He's talking and yeah, the cop's like, "Shut up, dude."
My stepdaughter, put him in the cage.
Doerman was taken away by sheriff's deputies.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket? Shut up, dude. You had the right to remain silent.
There was little question that Doerman had committed these crimes, but he was innocent until proven guilty as anyone else charged with a crime would be. Claremont County Prosecutor Mark Tacalvi announced his intent to seek the death penalty.
My goal was to have this man executed for slaughtering these 3 little boys.
But then Doerman's statement to law enforcement was suppressed because he had asked for a lawyer, and a detective continued to question him anyway. After that ruling from the judge, Doerman changed his plea to not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. He had essentially said he pulled the trigger, but didn't know what he was doing was wrong.
See, and this is the thing. Had he gone to court, there's no way he could have proven that he wasn't in. I mean, this was planned. I don't know how you can say it was by mental defect that this happened when it was planned. Lordy.
At the time because of mental illness.
And we're here this afternoon because I have been advised that a plea agreement has been reached in this matter.
That brings us to today, and Doerman pleading guilty to the aggravated murder of his 3 little boys.
As to count 1, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty. Count 2, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty. Count 3, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A.
Watch when he says this. No remorse. Look at his face.
As to count 1, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty. Count 2, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty. Count 3, aggravated murder in violation of 290301A, an unclassified felony. How do you plead? Guilty.
Prosecutor Mark Tacalvi outlined what Doerman did on June 15th of last year.
The defendant did purposely and with prior calculation and design cause the death of his 3 children. Clayton Doerman, age 7, Hunter Doerman, age 4, and Chase Doerman, age 3. On that date, Judge, June 15, 2023, the defendant returned home early from work and had his family, including his wife, Laura Doerman, with him. All 3 of the boys joined him in the master bedroom for a nap. At some point after lying down with the 4 of them, the defendant got out of bed, opened the gun safe that was next to the bed, removed a Marlin Model EC-22 rifle from the gun safe and loaded the magazine. The defendant shot his son, Hunter Doerman, twice while in the bedroom. His wife, Laura, began to render aid to Hunter and yelled for the other children to run. Laura's 14-year-old daughter, Alexis, who had been watching television in the family room, made her way to the master bedroom and witnessed the killing of Hunter. Alexis immediately began to run and indicated that Clayton had fled out the back door, and that Chad Doerman was following Clayton. She ran to help to try to protect Clayton.
Tacalvi then described what happened outside of the home.
The 3 of them go out the back door. Clayton's first, then there's the defendant, and then Alexis. Alexis witnesses the defendant chase after Clayton, raised his rifle, fired numerous shots at Clayton as he fled, and saw Clayton fall in the field after he was struck by gunfire. Alexis then watched as the defendant approached Clayton while he's injured, lying on the ground, defenseless, and saw the defendant put a bullet in Clayton's head, killing him.
Tacalvi said Laura Doerman then tried to save her baby, 3-year-old Chase.
Laura and the defendant struggled over the weapon. Laura was bitten as she tried to protect Chase from the defendant. The defendant bit her. She put her thumb over the end of the barrel in an effort to stop the bullet. She was shot in the thumb.
Okay, guys, I am going to stop that there. Looks like. Here we go. I'm not hearing anything, so I'm assuming they haven't started. Make sure I don't have this on super speed, normal. Good. Come on, come on. Yeah, do you know what? Nothing has come out at this point. I think the wife was planning on leaving. I can't say that at this exact moment that I could bring up the receipts for that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. What's going on here?
We're having a little bit of a technical moment here. There's a photograph.
Okay, there we are. They have not started. They're just getting set up. Yeah, it sounds like it was a pretty scary home life for this family. And I mean, the wife, she was terrified of him. What a horrible thing. What a horrible, horrible thing. So sad. I love that picture of those little boys. Well, come on. We got 1 minute left. I thought they had started. My mistake. Oh, it's beyond, isn't it? I don't know if we're going to hear a motive. Sorry, guys.
Every time
It's that photo.
it is that photo. Well, we have.
It sounds like he was acting super strange before he even did this, you know? And like I said, the neighbors said that there was always like abuse coming from that home. There was one fellow that lived right, he probably still lives there, right across from where this happened. And he said it was just brutal. And he thought his wife was cheating.
Just wait a second. Everybody.
Let me see. I'm just going to take a boo back at these documents for a second. Mm-hmm. We'll see how long this goes, because probably what I'll do is I'll go over the indictment with you guys. Like they're just getting things set up.
Yeah. But no, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. No.
Yeah, you would think they're going to have some explaining to do. I mean, what are the reasons? Did the family, did his wife, ex-wife, I'm sure by now, approve this? I have no idea. I'd love to know her thoughts on this. Maybe we'll find out. But wasn't that horrible? That clip that we were watching before we bounced over here? The description of what he was doing. It was like, oh my God, what, walking around mumbling to himself, and then lays down in bed with the family and then brings out a weapon? Oh my God. I don't know if the entire relationship was abusive, or if it just started when he found out, or if got it in his mind that his wife was cheating. Like I said, we'll go through the indictment when we're done here. It is not very long. It's 20 pages. Yeah, I can't say I heard that either, but I mean, I don't know. It could have come out at one point, and I just didn't see it. I know, well, I don't know. Allegedly, she was planning on leaving. So if that's the case, all sorts of things would come out, wouldn't it, as to, in his warped mind, as to why she would be moving out. Because his treatment wouldn't be enough, right? Admitted to chasing down his three sons, Clayton 7, Hunter 4, and Chase 3, executing them at the family home in June of 2023. Doerman had argued that he was mentally ill.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your patience as we corrected a little technical glitch. My name is Mark DeCalvi. I am the Claremont County, Ohio prosecuting attorney. We are here, as you know, to discuss the Doerman murder case. We have a PowerPoint presentation ready for you. I'm going to do some of it. First Assistant Laura Barron-Allen is going to do some. Before we get started, I would like to introduce Claremont County Sheriff Steve Leahy and Chief Deputy Chris Stratton, who in January of next year will be the next elected prosecutor of Claremont County. There have been some questions in terms of where Doerman is currently housed, and I'm going to hand that off to Sheriff Leahy.
As about an hour ago, he is still housed in our facility. The judge is working, his office is working on a warrant today. As soon as that is done, we will shift him immediately to CRC.
Thank you. Laura, would you like to step over and assist me with this? Let's begin the slideshow.
Slideshow. Warning, this presentation contains audio, video, and photographs. So trigger warning.
As you are all aware, in June of 2023,
Yes,
the
there
family
is.
consisted of Laura Doerman.
I think it's on the
Chad Doerman,
playlist.
husband and wife, Alexis, who was 14 years old at the time. She is Laura's daughter, and then the three boys, Clayton, Hunter, and Chase. Some of the background, why we think it was important to give you this information, is to try to put some context in terms of what was going on here before the murders. Alexis has always been an outstanding student, very dedicated to her studies. You may have heard her mention in court on Friday. She loves softball, and she's a fantastic softball player from what I've been told. She was even on the All-Star team last year. Clayton, Hunter, and Chase are all happy, active little boys. They love baseball, monster trucks, fishing, go-karting, and on their property and hanging out with your family members. Chad Doerman worked full-time as a member of the Insulators Union while Laura stayed at home with the boys and homeschooled Clayton. The plan was, and they made this decision as a family, that Laura would homeschool the children. Prior to June of 2023, and I know this has been of some interest and some inquiry, what was going on with his family? Was were there drugs involved? Were there prior incidents of violence? There were no reports, no prior reports, or any calls made to law enforcement for any event, any disturbance at the Doerman residence on Laurel Lindale Road. From the outside view, from the inside view, this was just a normal family that seemed very happy.
That's not what I've heard.
We're going to talk about the days leading up to the murders. 5 days before, on June 10th, 2023, just a normal day. Chad Doerman takes the three boys on an outing to a local dirt track to watch some races, and they had a boys' day together. Happy, content, with no indication of any trouble to come. He discussed with Laura that she and Alexis have a little shopping day together, a little girls' day, little boys' day, and that was done. That evening, the defendant did not report any issues or problems with sleeping. On Sunday, June 11th, the defendant takes the boys fishing, just the defendant and the three boys. No reports of any abnormal behavior on his part. Later, after the murders occurred, Doerman provided conflicting statements about whether he slept well or if at all on Sunday night. Monday, 3 days before the killings, defendant goes to work as usual Monday morning. His co-workers do not notice anything unusual or abnormal about his behavior or his words. He later, again, gave conflicting statements about whether he slept or whether he didn't sleep too good that evening, Monday, June 12, 2023. Tuesday, June 13th, he goes to work again as usual Tuesday morning. After work, normal conduct, normal behavior. He had some problem with his vehicle's headlights, and he works on those headlights. Later, again, after the killings, the defendant gave conflicting statements about whether he slept Tuesday night, but eventually indicates and admitted that he didn't sleep too good that night either, maybe just a few hours. And you'll see why this is significant as we go through this. The day before the murders, Wednesday, June 14th, 2023. The defendant wakes his stepdaughter up before he leaves for work, which is a highly unusual thing to do. He typically left for work at 4 or 5 in the morning. He wakes her up and tells her and apologizes for whatever I have done to you and for anything I've ever done to hurt you. Again, unusual, but will become meaningful in context as we know how the events unfolded later. Go ahead, please. Again, he's at work, and these co-workers, bosses, were all interviewed extensively by law enforcement, by the members of the Claremont County Sheriff's Office, and they report nothing was observed unusual about Doerman on that day. Just normal work day, normal behavior. The night before Chad Doerman murdered his children, June 14th, 2023, it was normal. He went as he did and coached his boys, or actually coached Coach Clayton. He coached third base that evening. The entire family went to the ball game. There were no indicators that anything this horrible was about to occur. Later, some folks did notice that perhaps while coaching third base, he seemed a little distracted, but nothing concrete, nothing you could latch onto to gauge in any fashion what was about to occur. Again, later to law enforcement, he gave multiple reports that he couldn't sleep at all the night before he killed his kids. The day of the murders, June 15th, 2023. The defendant gets up, goes to work, arrives at about 7 a.m. On his way to work, and we know this because we have his phone and we got all his phone records and all his search history. On his way to work, he searches on YouTube for a song titled Happy in Hell. I'd never heard of that song before this, but I've unfortunately become acquainted with it and the lyrics. Go ahead. I'm not going to read them, but here they are.
Who wrote that song?
I don't know who wrote it.
Colt Ford.
I know Colt Ford sang it.
Right.
Who did?
Colt, but go to the prior screen, please.
Colt Ford.
Colt Ford. I don't know who wrote it. I know it was recorded and performed by Colt Ford, who I don't know who that is either. Thank you. Thursday morning. Again, the day of the murder. The defense boss does notice something abnormal about his behavior, but nothing to the point where he was alarmed to make a report or to call anyone. The defendant leaves work at around 9:30 a.m. and goes to Kroger off of Beachmont and 5 Mile. And again, we know all this because we have his phone records, we know his locations, we know he's speaking with folks on the phone, he's sending messages. 9:42 a.m. And again, some of this is known from the Kroger parking lot video and the interior video of Kroger. 9:42, he arrives at the Kroger parking lot. 9:44, he enters Kroger. He's in the aisle of the vitamins and supplements. He walks over to the little clinic. And the reason he went to the little clinic is because his mother suggested he go there. He expressed to her, not to Laura, that he was having some confusing feelings. We're going to tell you and emphasize the little clinic, as good as it is, cannot, as we understand it, it is not the right place to go for serious problems that you may feel you're having psychologically. Anyway, he walks to the little clinic. Less than 2 minutes pass, and he leaves without speaking to anyone at the little clinic. So why he went there and why he immediately left after a minute and a half, we can't answer that. We don't know. This is him. Him walking in. I can't tell.
He arrives and will park.
This is 5 or 10 minutes. We're not going to play it. We can just sit through it.
Can you use the mouse to fast forward?
But again, this will all be in the information we provide and release. That's him entering from the top. The same clothes he was wearing when he killed his sons a few hours later. We need to figure out these images of other folks. It's him. Green shirt, blue jeans. It is noteworthy while we're going through this that despite the fact that his mother suggested he go to the little clinic, she never alerted Laura, never called 911 on his behalf, never called a crisis hotline, did nothing.
Did he only say confusing feelings? Did he?
Let me run through this. I might take some questions afterwards. Thank you.
Do you know what he's looking at there?
Do not.
How
This is
cold.
the little
I mean, he's just wandering around.
Do we know what he purchased that day?
Nothing.
Or what he asked at the counter?
There's no one there.
So he leaves the counter. So he drives home. On the way home, he stops, buys a 16-ounce Bud Light, goes out to the shed behind the house. The family then arrives, running some errands, and the boys, happy to see their father, run to say hello to him.
Brutal.
Just a normal afternoon or a normal morning, other than he came home a little bit early that day. He plays with the boys while Laura makes lunch. While eating lunch, oddly, the defendant says to Laura that this will be my last good meal. Having no information, no idea what Chad was contemplating, Laura begins to worry that this is a statement he may be contemplating suicide.
That would have been preferable.
Shortly before he kills his kids, Doerman calls his father and makes the statement that Clayton is going to be the hardest one. And down below, these are it's an excerpt from Doerman's phone records that show the telephone call that was made. Between around 1 p.m. and 3:30, the defendant spends the afternoon doing yard work, playing with the kids. Again, nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing to alert Laura that she needed to do something to protect the family. There's no information available to her. 3:30 to 3:45, he begins to read the Bible to Hunter. He's walking around the house with the Bible, mumbling, "Chad knows what's right. Chad knows what's right." Shortly before 4 p.m., he gets into the gun safe, leaving it unlocked. Laura says, "You are scaring me." Again, highly unusual behavior. And Chad says, "I'm just playing around." Our position is he did this to, again, allay any fears or concerns that may build up in her about her safety, his safety, or the safety of the boys or Alexis. So he actively deceived her. 4 p.m. He's telling Clayton, Hunter, and Chase that he loves them and they did nothing wrong, and that they are the best boys ever, knowing he's about to kill them. Did you get it, David? Around 4 p.m. on that day of the killing, the defendant and Laura and all three boys go into the master bedroom, playing, have lunch, a little tired, lie down, concerned that vaguely in the back of her mind, he's going to do something to hurt himself.
It's what they were saying at the beginning.
The defendant jumps up, grabs the 22 rifle from the safe, and terror fills the room as Laura is screaming, the boys are screaming. Laura is frightened that he's about to kill himself. They're all trying to encourage him, telling him that they love him and beg him not to kill himself. Laura takes the phone out to call 911 to get some help there for Chad, who she believes is about to kill himself. He grabs her phone, throws it across the room, and tells her it's too late.
Oh.
He's not going to kill himself. It is too late to save those boys.
Oh my God.
And then what I can only imagine, well, I can't imagine.
Nope.
Takes the rifle, points it at Hunter, and shoots him multiple times.
Yeah.
Laura sees this. Alexis sees this. Clayton sees this. Chase sees this. Laura screams for the other children to run. But she tries to render aid and eventually does call 911 after Hunter has been shot. Hunter was shot in the right arm, right torso, stomach area, and twice in the right side of his head. Twice in the right side of his head, we believe, were the final two shots to ensure that Hunter was dead.
Oh.
You're going to hear a couple 911 calls. And I ask you, in your discretion and your sensibility for the privacy and dignity of the family, to limit, as you see fit, what is disseminated to the public. Go ahead.
Trigger warning.
You hear the male voice. That is Chad.
Ah.
To get off. She is fighting to save her children.
Ah. Oh, Lordy. You idiot. Oh my God. Get there and help her. Oh my God. Jesus. 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 Oh. I think she's busy right now, buddy.
That's enough.
Yeah, that is enough.
We'll go to the next slide. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jesus. Chicken shit, isn't he?
Anyway, Hunter was removed from the house by Laura. Try to stay quiet. And you hear Laura tell him to run. Clayton runs out the back. The defendant gives chase to Clayton. Alexis runs after the defendant in an effort to save Clayton. The unspeakable bravery of that, I cannot comprehend. But that's what this little girl did. While she's running to try to save Clayton, she observes the defendant raise his rifle, fire several shots, striking Clayton from some 50 or 70 yards distance. Clayton's down, and the defendant walks up to him calmly and executes him with 2 bullets to the head.
Jesus.
So after Alexis sees this, she knows that Chase is still running around crying. She hears him. She runs back into the house to grab Chase. She grabs him, flees the residence, and begins to run across the yard out towards the street with the intent to go to the firehouse, which is, in close proximity to protect him. This is a Ring doorbell from a neighboring residence. Go ahead and play that, please.
Wow.
Please, the please don't shoot me is Alexis, as Doermann is pointing the rifle to her head as she is holding Chase and is compelled to put him down. Alexis sees Chase. He runs to the trash cans in the driveway and attempts to hide from the defendant, 3-year-old boy hiding from his father. Alexis runs to get help. At some point, the defendant points the gun at Chase's head and fires it, but the magazine is empty, so it's just a click, as I said the other day in court. At some point, he reloads. Laura, protecting Chase, is physically fighting with the defendant. As I said, and as you're aware, the defendant bit Laura. In a desperate attempt to save Chase, she places her thumb over the barrel of the rifle and took that projectile in an effort to save Chase. But unfortunately, the defendant was not to be deterred. He prevailed in the struggle, had control of the weapon, and executed Chase in front of Laura.
Brutal.
Laura's, at some point, we know, returns to where Hunter is in the side yard where she brought him out of the house. And these photographs, it's the side yard where Doermann was sitting with the side steps, the side entrance of the house. Those steps where Doermann was sitting when the deputy sheriffs arrived. She's, again, trying to resuscitate, give aid to Hunter. And the defendant walks out to the field where he murdered Clayton, picks up his dead body of his 7-year-old son, and brings it back and lies it down next to Hunter. Then he brings Chase over, lies him down next to Hunter body and Clayton's body, all while Laura is right there trying to render aid. You're familiar with these aerials, that this is essentially the area where he laid the bodies. If you see the sidewalk on the, right here, that's the sidewalk leading up to the side entrance and the steps where the defendant was sitting when police arrived. And that's the area where he laid the bodies of Clayton and Chase. All right, 5 minutes after the first 911 call made by Laura, and we don't know why it was disconnected. She makes the second call to 911. And again, I would ask you to exercise the same common decency and discretion when playing these. Thank you. Go ahead.
Graham County Dispatch, Chicago.
Hey guys, thanks for playing. Where's that at?
1965 Laurel Lindale.
So it's at the Laurel Firehouse.
It's just north of the Laurel Firehouse.
Just north of the Laurel Firehouse.
North, right at the intersection of
Give me that address. Give me that address one more time.
1965 Laurel Lindale.
1965 Laurel Lindale. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. 911, where's your emergency? Can you hear me? My children are shot. My children are not breathing. Okay, what happened? How many people are shot? I think 3. What? 3 children. 3 children were shot. Okay, what's your name? My name's Laura. I need help. Lauren, I have help on the way, Lauren. Did you say Lauren? Laura, I called and nobody came. They're driving there. They're on their way. They're on their way. Who is the shooter? What's his name? Father. What's his name? Chad Doerman. Take a deep breath for me. I can't do it. What's his name? They killed my children. Are you with your children now? I'm waiting till they're all over the yard. I need help. Somebody overtake them. They can't pick up my granny. Sam, where is he? I'm trying. Let me help you. Take a deep breath so that I can help you. Okay. Do you want to do CPR? Do you want to do CPR? Do you want to do CPR? I can help you.
That's enough for now. You will get the whole call. Thank you. 4:26 p.m. Deputy Sparks, Popham with Claremont County Sheriff's Office arrived. So you know, this is some distance away. And they were responding with lights and sirens at a very rapid speed. Caring more about being dispatched to this horrible scene than their own safety. They get there and they, well, here you go. Let's watch this.
Where's he at? He's shooter's found the boats. Get him right here. You got him on the floor.
Please leave us home.
Get us under an handshake. Stand up and walk towards us. Stand up now. Walk towards us. Stand up with your hands up. Stand up now.
Chad Doerman.
I know, but we can't do any first aid if we're not complying. You gotta find cover first. We ain't no good if we ain't safe ourselves.
Okay. We need it coming from this side where we can see it. Okay, cover behind it. We see him. We're going to approach from this side. We got cover. Right here.
629 and 53 tied back.
Show us your fucking hands now. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up now. Stand up. Stand the fuck up. Stand there. Get the EMS over here. Sober. I'm not trying to put you. Get your butt inside. Yeah, get your butt inside. We on primary? 29, we got 3 main now. 63, we're 21. Have EMS respond over here.
You're clear, they're being advised.
Robert 34, smart mass costume.
63, do you want to respond to the Laurel and Dale address, or is that what you need on?
We're right in the front yard. What are you doing, man? Cover him over. I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody. You got anything on you? No, I ain't got nothing, man. Fire, that's it. I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him. Pet him. He won't bite you. What's going on, man? Stand up. Stand up. I'm gonna get you here. Stand right away. You can do whatever you want. Here. You the only one else inside the house? What? You the only one else inside the house? Yeah. Sarah, my daughter, she ran over to the fire department. Sit down. It's my stepdaughter. Put him in that cage.
A couple things. These deputy sheriffs, they face dangerous situations every day. And they went fearlessly into the face of this scene where they know people were being shot. And they are to be commended, as is all law enforcement, for the acts of bravery they display every day. And we thank you. This screen here, as you recall, I earlier said that after the killings, defendant went over into the field and picked up Clayton. This is Clayton's blood. He slung him over his shoulder and carried him back and laid him down in the side yard. And this is all confirmed with DNA evidence. So there's no question that it's Clayton's blood. First responders and deputies on emergency scenes do what they typically do. They render aid. Deputy Sparks carried Chase just a short distance before he realizes Chase has died and gently lays him down on the ground. They cover the boys up with sheets. I've been to a lot of crime scenes. I don't expect to see sheets this long. So Hunter is carried to the life squad. That's why he ended up there. Chase is carried to through the yard, most of the yard, by the deputy, and Clayton remained where the defendant placed him after killing him. All right, go ahead and play it. Tell him I did it, take me to jail. The defendant is driven in custody to the sheriff's office for an interview. It was a very lengthy interview process where the defendant initially acted like he had no idea that his children had been shot, playing a game. But we have some clips from that we would like you to see. Notably here, when asked the names and ages of his children, he gives Hunter's name first, Clayton's name second, although Clayton's the oldest, and Chase's name third. And as you already know, that's the order in which he killed them. Can we get more volume? Oh, I thought you had a remote or something. Let's move on. We know what it says. Hopefully the audio quality will be better when you get it. During the interview, the defendant did acknowledge that he had been having difficulty sleeping or working leading up to the murders because he knew what he was going to do. As you can see, among these statements the defendant made to the detectives, Detective Mike Ross and Mike Green, that because Laura tried to stop him from murdering these boys, that he should have killed her first. You know, the criminal justice process, he was charged initially through Claremont County Municipal Court, held on I believe, a $20 million bond, and subsequently indicted by the Claremont County Grand Jury on the 21 counts, 9 counts of aggravated murder, 3 for each boy. Now, at this point, I'm going to ask Laura Barron Allen to handle this part of it. So we're going to talk about the not guilty by reason of insanity defense and the serious mental illness defense. And she can walk you through that. Thank you.
So in March of this year, the defendant filed a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. In Ohio, in order to prevail on that kind of plea, it would be the defendant's burden to show or to prove that at the time of the offenses, he had a severe mental disease or defect, and that he did not know as a result of a severe mental disease or defect the wrongfulness of his actions. The defense, subsequently to their expert rendering that opinion, also filed a motion under revised code section 2929.025, the serious mental illness statute, which is relatively new in the state of Ohio, just beginning in 2021. And under the serious mental illness statute, again, the defendant would have the burden of showing by preponderance of the evidence that he has been diagnosed with one of 4 mental diseases: schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, or delusional disorder. If an expert opines that he has in fact been diagnosed with one of those mental diseases, then he would also have to show that at the time he committed the offenses, that the condition with which he's been diagnosed significantly impaired his ability or capacity to exercise rational judgment in relation to, first, conforming his conduct with the requirements of law, or second, appreciating the nature, consequences, or wrongfulness of his conduct. One of the things that all of the experts considered here is that prior to June 15th of 2023, the defendant was never diagnosed, treated, or prescribed any medication for any mental health condition. The expert hired by defense counsel in this case was Dr. Robert Stenson. The court's expert as to the question of not guilty by reason of insanity, again commonly referred to as NGRI, was Dr. Emily Davis. Despite the defense's contention, the experts did not agree on whether or not the criteria of NGRI, that the defendant met the criteria for NGRI. Both doctors, both Dr. Davis and Dr. Stenson, indicated that it was likely at the time of the offenses the defendant did suffer from a mood disorder. Could have been depression, could have been anxiety, could have been anything or nothing. They really weren't sure. But where the two experts differed was that Dr. Davis opined that the defendant did not meet the criteria for NGRI because he did know the wrongfulness of his actions. Dr. Davis specifically opined that with all of the information considered and reviewed, it was her opinion that despite the defendant experienced some symptoms of severe mental disease, that it was her opinion that he continued to know the wrongfulness of his behaviors in the offenses charged. Although some collateral records suggest a delusional thought process that served as motivation, such as when the defendant claimed he believed he was in hell at the time, there are also behaviors demonstrated by the defendant and commentary that he makes around the time of the offenses, which indicated he continued to know the wrongfulness of his actions. And as you saw in the body-worn camera, those kind of comments would be, tell them I did it, take me to jail. Hey, officers, I'm not mad. I'm not on any drugs. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to run. The dog won't bite you. All of those comments do show that he had an awareness, that he knew what was right and wrong at the time, and that he could conform his behavior to that. What's important to note is that neither Dr. Stenson nor Dr. Davis were able to diagnose the defendant during their NGRI evaluation with any specific mental health disease. During all of the evaluations, the doctors all agreed that while the defendant was incarcerated, he exhibited no acute mental health symptoms and received no mental health treatment or medication. And again, as we noted, the various statements that were made by the defendant both on scene, in his interview, and after the fact are not consistent with someone in the throes of a delusion. Yeah, go ahead. You're fine. You're fine. However, after rendering his opinion as to not guilty by reason of insanity, Dr. Stenson did submit an opinion as to whether or not the defendant suffered from a serious mental illness at the time he committed these offenses. What Dr. Stenson opined essentially was that the defendant was bipolar and that he was unable to appreciate, again, the wrongfulness of his actions or conform his behavior to law. However, As we reviewed Dr. Senson's report, there was no explanation of how he came to that conclusion of the diagnosis of bipolar, especially since he provided, between the time of his NGRI opinion and his SMI opinion, there was no further testing of the defendant. There were no further interviews of the defendant. There was nothing done other than speaking with the defendant's parents and brother one more time for approximately a total of a half an hour. Additionally, there was nothing in his report that would indicate that his diagnosis of bipolar disorder conformed with the diagnostic criteria as required in the DSM-5, which is kind of the holy grail of psychiatry and psychology. Based on Dr. Senson's report, the court appointed Dr. Carla Dreyer to conduct a second SMI evaluation of the defendant, and she had a completely different opinion from Dr. Senson. In her opinion, she noted that it was her belief the defendant did not suffer from a serious mental illness at the time of the offense, which significantly impaired his capacity to exercise rational judgment in relation to his conduct with respect to either conforming his conduct to the requirements of law or appreciating the nature, consequences, or wrongfulness of his conduct. She went on to note that with regard to the statutory criteria, records suggest that the defendant has a history of controlling behaviors as well as poor frustration tolerance and chronic anger, likely related to his underlying personality structure. The available information indicates that the defendant took multiple steps to kill his children, shooting his wife and threatening his stepdaughter in the process. Dr. Dreyer's opinion continued, stating he made statements to indicate that he knew he was killing them. Mr. Doermann's careful execution of the murders, coupled with statements he made to law enforcement after they arrived on scene, indicated that he appreciated the nature of what he did, as well as the wrongfulness and consequences of such. You have all now heard the 911 calls, and you have seen the body-worn camera, and you have seen at least portions, if not all, of the defendant's interview. During the 911 calls, during the body-worn cameras, he is not making the same claims that he only begins to make during his interview when questioned by detectives. You never hear him say, "We're in hell. I have to get to heaven. I have to get you to heaven. I see flames. The devil made me do it." He made no statements that would indicate in any way, shape, or form during his slaughter of his children that would show or indicate that he truly was in the throes of a delusion. This was something that we believe he concocted during the course of his interview. Again, the defendant made a variety of statements to law enforcement, which would indicate that he knew what he was doing at the time and that were not consistent with someone who was in the throes of a delusion. If you're in the throes of a delusion and you think, hey, I have to save my boys, I'm doing a good thing by sending them to heaven and helping them escape from hell, you would say that. But instead, during the course of the interview, multiple times, the defendant denies being the shooter. Those kind of statements were made multiple times during the course of the interview, whether he specifically denied it or started to claim that he didn't remember, or maybe he wasn't there, maybe he was at work, or something along those lines. But again, why would you deny doing an act unless you knew it was wrong? At times, again, the defendant claimed not to remember anything about what had happened that day. But then there were other times, specifically to his family, his mother, his father, his brother, where he would make specific statements. Oh no, I remember everything, including why I did that. So there in the interview, he's saying, what happened? I don't know what happened. You tell me, detective. You tell me what happened because I don't know. That's very different than what he says to his mother in a recorded jail call. 10 days later.
I remember everything. All the way to the point, all the way to all the reasons why and everything.
So I know that was hard to hear, but in the interview on June 15th, the date he committed these atrocious acts, the defendant's acting like he has no idea what's going on. Just 10 days later, he's talking to his mom, who is, now mind you, they've all met with their attorneys. They've started the discussions of the NGRI defense. They've started discussions about mental health and how that can help him. So to his mom, who's saying, no, you don't remember, he's saying, yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I remember everything, including why I did it. And again, we have reviewed numerous jail calls that the defendant made while incarcerated, and there were multiple times where he made statements that were inconsistent with the statements he made to doctors or on his own behalf in an attempt to mitigate his actions on June 15th. Some of those are, again, calls with his parents and brother. So again, I know that was a little difficult to hear, but in that call, he's talking about 2 days after these events. He's talking about meeting with a psychiatrist, and he's talking about not wanting to meet with her because it's not going to get him anything. So he already knows that he can benefit, depending on what he says, to doctors. And you heard in that the doctor at the time is trying to determine whether or not he's a threat to himself, whether or not he needs to be at a specific level of supervision at the jail. And one of the things she asked him is, do you feel bad for what you've done? And his response is no. And the next call, please. So again, in case anyone had any question about whether he knows what he's done is wrong, in this jail call with his brother, again, 2 days after he has just slaughtered his children, he is comparing himself to Hitler and how Hitler made news across the world, and so has he. Sorry, 12 days after these incidents. So within 2 weeks, he's comparing himself to Hitler and saying, he's as big as Hitler. He is internationally known. Look at me.
Thank you, Laura. All right, so we come to the plea. As you know, in the brief remarks I made Friday, the defense came to us on Tuesday morning, offered us life without parole. We brought in Laura Doerman and talked her through this. Wanted to find out what she wanted to do. And again, as I said, Friday, this decision was made to prevent further harm to the family. And we know what life without parole means. That means he's never getting out of prison alive. So the sentencing was 3 consecutive life without parole, count 1 for Clayton, count 2 for Hunter, count 3 for Chase, count 18 for Laura for having their rifle pointed at her head. Count 18 for Alexis for having the rifle pointed at her head, and count 20 for Laura for being, among other things, shot in the thumb. We discussed this at press conference with Laura. I can tell you she is grievously injured, so is Alexis. And they have our sorrow, and they will always have whatever aid we can bring to them. But this is a message from Laura to the community. No one who knew the defendant could have imagined the person they knew before June 15th, 2023, committing these acts. They were a normal family. The boys were happy. But she wants everyone to be aware and spread this among your family, friends, loved ones. If you are struggling with thoughts of self-harm or thoughts of harming others, or if you know of anyone who is, please reach out. You will not be judged. Help is available. Call a crisis hotline or call 988 or go to your nearest hospital. Violence is never the solution. Thank you.
Mark, why did you hold this press conference?
To give you additional information on what was going on here, more than we could relate in a few minutes on the courthouse steps.
Does it have anything to do with trying to let the public have a better understanding of why you struck this plea deal with this defendant?
No, I explained that, I think, sufficiently on Friday. It's to let the public know what was going on behind the scenes here and to emphasize the great sorrow we have for this family and how this was something out of the blue. This was lightning from a blue sky. Go ahead, I'll take a couple questions.
Should we still know why Chad did this?
No idea. Don't know why. That will probably never be answered. You look at this nice little family, sweet little family. I can't speculate as to why it happened. Can't do it.
And they were getting, you're saying they were a happy family, at least everybody thought. Laura had no, in hindsight.
I'm not going to speak for Laura other than what I know is that they were a happy family. We'll never put a word in her mouth.
Do we know anything specifically about maybe what he told his mother before he went to the clinic? I know he expressed maybe he was having confusion. Was there any specifics about what he said?
I don't recall, but it'll be in the materials. All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow, that was heartbreaking. You know, I was going to go through the documents, but I've decided not to. They went through everything. Basically, the documents were going to tell you about those charges that were set. They were going to tell you graphic details about how these children were found. He did all that. So I don't think I really want to continue on with that graphic nature. I hope these boys are in a better place. And I don't know about how I feel at this point about him being able to cop a plea. I mean, There was no signs of remorse, maybe for himself, but not for these kids. And he said straight out that he had been planning this. He wasn't able to sleep because he knew what he was going to do. So, yeah, I'm not going to repeat everything that he just said. It's very disturbing what happened that day. And, oh, that poor mother and the daughter, both of them. I don't know how you survive something like this. So they're going to be in my prayers, my thoughts and prayers. And if anything of interest pops up about this case, I'll definitely be bringing it to your attention. But I don't think we'll be hearing about Chad Doerman ever again until he stops breathing, is my expectations. So with that said, guys, it was a long one. I appreciate you guys being here with me. Too much, just too much. Yeah. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Smash that bell. And I'll see you guys soon in the next one. Bye.